Good day, everyone. You're welcome to this week's Business and Investment Tips program, a production of RCCG Christ Church Radio with Dr. Ayodeji Ebo, an investment professional. This week, the focus is on Nigeria's Q1 2025 trade story, earning more but getting less value. The National Bureau of Statistics has recently published its insightful Nigeria's Term of Trade Index report for the first quarter of 2025. This week, we will examine the report's findings, highlight key insights, and their significant implications for the Nigerian economy. The Terms of Trade (TOT) simply tells us how much Nigeria's exports are worth compared to its imports. If the TOT is above 100, it means our exports can purchase more imports, which is a positive sign. Conversely, if the TOT is below 100, it indicates that imports are costing us more than what we earn from exports. To illustrate this concept, if you sell palm oil and can buy a lot of rice with the money earned, your trade terms are favorable. However, if the price of rice increases more quickly than the price of palm oil, you would end up with less price for the same amount of oil, resulting in weaker trade terms. In Q1 2022, Nigeria's Import Price Index (IPI), which measures how much the country pays for goods it imports from abroad, fell by 0.3% compared to previous quarter because of lower prices for chemicals, leather, and base metals. However, it was still 1.5% higher than last year at 114.2 points, indicating that imports remain more expensive than in 2024. The Export Price Index (EPI), which indicates the prices Nigerian producers receive for goods sold abroad, dropped by 0.2% over the quarter, as prices for plastics, wood, and textiles decreased. Annually, it increased slightly by 1% to 115.6 points, but this rise was smaller than the increase in import prices. As a result, the Terms of Trade (TOT) index averaged 101.3 points in Q1 2025, down from 101.8 in Q1 2024. This indicates that every 1,000 naira earned from exports could buy 1,012 naira 80 kobo worth of imports in 2025, compared to 1,017 naira and 80 kobo in 2024. In simple terms, Nigeria lost about 100.4 billion naira in purchasing power from its exports because imports costs increased faster than export prices. In Q1 2025, India was Nigeria's top trade partner with 2.8 trillion naira in exports and 1.7 trillion naira in import. The Netherlands followed with 2.3 trillion naira in exports and 0.8 trillion naira in imports. Trade in the US amounted to 1.5 trillion naira in exports and 1.4 trillion naira in imports, while France recorded 1.4 trillion naira in exports and 0.2 trillion naira in imports. Spain also registered 1.4 trillion naira in exports and 0.4 trillion naira in imports. Implications and recommendations. 1. Rising import costs. Import prices are rising more quickly than export prices, diminishing Nigeria's trade purchasing power. To tackle this, Nigeria should promote more domestic production at lower costs to foster competition, especially in chemicals, machinery, and textile, thus lowering its dependency on expensive imports. 2. Heavy reliance on oil exports. With oil and gas dominating exports, Nigeria remains highly vulnerable to fluctuations in global oil prices. Expanding exports into agriculture, solid minerals, and manufactured goods will help mitigate this risk and bolster economic resilience. 3. Limited export price growth. Non-oil exports such as plastics, textile, and wood have decreased in value, indicating weak competitiveness. To improve this, Nigeria should invest in value-added processing and enhance product quality to secure better prices internationally. 4. Foreign exchange pressure. Even with consistent trade surpluses, weaker terms of trade may slow foreign exchange inflows and put pressure on the naira. Strengthening FX reserves through broader export diversification and targeted trade agreements is therefore necessary. 5. Shrinking purchasing power from trade. Every 1,000 naira earned from exports now buys fewer imports compared to last year, resulting in an estimated 100 naira billion loss in value. Nigeria should negotiate more favorable trade terms with its partners and invest in logistics to reduce import costs. 6. Concentration of trade partners. Nigeria's trade is concentrated with a few key partners including India, the Netherlands, the US, France, and Spain, which raises the risk of demand declines in these markets. Broadening market access to more regions, particularly in Africa and Asia, usually under the AFCFTA, would help mitigate the risk and create new opportunities. In summary, Nigeria's trade position in Q1 2025 was positive, but rising import costs and weaker export prices limited the gains. Heavy reliance on oil leaves the economy vulnerable to global shocks, while non-oil exports remain weak. Without diversification, FX pressures and declining trade value may continue. Strengthening local production, enhancing non-oil competitiveness, and expanding market access are essential to turn this surplus into sustainable economic resilience. Thank you for listening. Please join us same time next week for another interesting and insightful session. For questions, comments, and feedback, kindly forward to ebo.ayodeji@gmail.com or send an SMS to 07082463747. Stay blessed and have a great week. Bye.